Nathan Wolfe, a master watchmaker whose once nimble and precise fingers now trembled slightly, navigated Oak Street. At 78, his world had narrowed to the tiny workshop on the corner and his daily commutes to the modest home he shared with memories. His only companion, besides the ticking mechanisms of clocks, was an old, creaky but reliable electric scooter. Not a motorcycle, not a car, just a simple mobility scooter, his lifeline to the outside world after years had claimed the sharpness of his vision and his steady gait. On that Thursday afternoon, the sky hung heavy and gray, promising rain. Nathan was returning from the pharmacy, his scooter's basket laden with medication and a fresh pack of batteries. He was about halfway home when he heard a faint, but alarming, grinding sound from beneath his wheels. The scooter lurched, then its front wheel seized up completely. Nathan, struggling to maintain his balance, came to an abrupt halt directly in front of the Bone Club, the notorious biker den that served as the headquarters for the toughest motorcycle club in the county, the Highway Specters. Outside, beneath the awning, dozens of bikers milled about. Their heavy motorcycles gleamed on the damp asphalt, and their owners, men and women in leather vests adorned with skull and phantom patches, smoked and talked loudly. Nathan immediately assessed the situation. This was unfriendly territory. The Highway Specters were known for their intolerance of outsiders and their boisterous demeanor. As he bent down to examine the locked wheel, a chorus of chuckles rose from under the awning. "Looks like Grandpa took a wrong turn to the old folks' home," someone yelled, triggering louder laughter. Nathan said nothing. He'd weathered worse than mockery. Kneeling beside the scooter, he pulled a small, rusty multi-tool from his pocket. His hands trembled slightly, a combination of his medical condition and the acute awareness of being watched. As he attempted to free the jammed wheel, no one moved to help. Instead, the audience settled in, finding entertainment in his struggle. Nathan kept his eyes down, focusing on the task at hand, his weathered face revealing nothing of his thoughts. The afternoon sun, now hidden behind the clouds, offered no warmth as he worked. His thin, worn jacket offered little protection against the chill, but he hadn't considered removing it. The jacket, like the worn silver pocket watch he carried, remained a constant reminder of who he was. Regardless of what others saw when they looked at him now, struggling on the Spectre street, the initial amusement at his predicament was evolving into something more deliberate. Several bikers had pulled out their phones, recording his struggle. "Gonna post this battle of the broken scooter," one younger rider announced, carefully framing his shot. "This'll get views for sure." Nathan's fingers slipped, and the multi-tool clattered onto the pavement. When he reached for it, the sudden movement upset the precariously balanced scooter. It tilted sideways, sending his pharmacy bag tumbling. Medicine bottles thudded against the asphalt. The new batteries rolled in various directions, some stopping near the boots of watching bikers. A fresh wave of laughter erupted as Nathan straightened slowly, his joints protesting, and began retrieving his scattered items. He moved methodically, one item at a time, aware of the phones tracking his every movement, but refusing to give them the reaction they were hoping for. Someone should help the old-timer, a female voice suggested from somewhere in the crowd, only to be immediately hushed. Nah, entertainment's hard to come by in this town. Nathan had just retrieved the last battery when the atmosphere suddenly shifted. The street fell silent in a way that registered immediately in his finely tuned, lifelong sense of observation. He glanced up to see the crowd parting for a massive figure emerging from the Bone Club's interior. The man stood at least 6 feet 5 inches, with shoulders stretching the leather cut emblazoned with the Highway Specters insignia in the title President in bold lettering. Tattoos covered both arms from wrist to shoulder, intricate patterns of gears mixed with spectral imagery. His dark beard was streaked with gray, his eyes sharp beneath a weathered brow. This was Viper, the notorious founder and president of the Highway Specters Motorcycle Club. His reputation extended far beyond the county line. Stories of legendary rides, fierce loyalty, and an iron-fisted rule over his domain. Viper surveyed the scene, the old man with the broken scooter, the scattered items, the club members with their phones still recording. His expression revealed nothing as he stepped off the awning onto the parking lot pavement. The crowd was completely silent now. Even the background music from the club seemed to dim in anticipation. Viper walked directly toward Nathan, his heavy boots crunching on the gravel. Nathan straightened as much as his aging spine allowed, facing the approaching figure with the quiet dignity that had carried him through a lifetime of precision work and quiet perseverance. Without a word, Viper looked once at Nathan, then back at the watching crowd. The message in that glance was clear enough to make several bikers lower their phones uncomfortably. Then, To everyone's surprise, Viper bent down and lifted Nathan's scooter as if it weighed nothing. He examined the jammed wheel for a moment, then turned and wheeled the scooter toward the club's entrance. "You coming, old man?" he asked Nathan over his shoulder, his voice gruff, but not unkind. Nathan hesitated, then gathered his remaining pharmacy items and followed. At the door, Viper turned to address the stunned onlookers. "Anyone who's got a wrench and an ounce of common sense, get over here now." For a moment, no one moved. The Highway Spectre's members exchanged uncertain glances, caught between their previous mockery and their president's unexpected command. Then slowly, something remarkable happened. One by one, they stood. First, a heavily built biker near the back, then two younger members by the club entrance, then several more. Within moments, every single member was on their feet. "I got a torque wrench in my saddlebag," called one. "I know how to fix a seized bearing," offered another. "My grandpa was a mechanic. I watched him all the time," a young woman added. What had been a scene of humiliation moments before was transforming into something else entirely, something none of the onlookers who had gathered to watch the spectacle could have predicted. As Nathan followed Viper into the Bone Club, pharmacy bags clutched in his trembling hands. The Highway Spectre's members fell in behind them, not as mockers, but as a suddenly determined brigade of unlikely engineers. Inside the Bone Club, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The club's interior, normally filled with raucous laughter and blaring music, had fallen into a strange, expectant hush. Viper cleared a large central table with one sweep of his massive arm, sending empty mugs clattering into a bin, and carefully placed Nathan's scooter atop the scarred wooden surface. "Let's see what we're working with," he said, his tone businesslike. The other bikers gathered around an impromptu workshop, forming a tight circle as toolkits appeared from pockets and saddlebags. Nathan stood slightly apart, watching with quiet surprise as these men and women, who moments earlier had been mocking him, now focused intently on his scooter. "Front bearing shot," one of them announced. "Totally seized. And these brake lines are chewed up, too," added another. "Amazing it still ran." Viper nodded, assessing the scooter with the practiced eye of someone who understood machines. Then, without warning, he turned his attention to Nathan himself. The big man approached and, with surprising gentleness, reached toward Nathan's chest pocket. Nathan stiffened instinctively until he realized what Viper was doing. The biker president carefully lifted the old, tarnished silver pocket watch from beneath Nathan's worn jacket. The metal clinked softly as Viper held it in his palm, reading the faint, almost invisible inscription on the back aloud. "N.W. Zurich, 47. He paused, then added with a newfound respect, a master's touch. "My old man. He was a watch collector. Said the real ones always had a secret mark." The club grew deathly silent. "You're a watchmaker," Viper said, not a question, but a statement of recognition. Nathan nodded once. "Still am. Just older now." From the edge of the gathered crowd, a younger biker with sharp, intelligent eyes stepped forward. "Wolf? From the old shop on Elm Street? My grandmother brought her grandfather's pocket watch to you. Said you were the only one who could fix its chime after it fell." Nathan's stoic expression softened perceptibly. "Ah, the old repeater. Took me a week to get that perfect. She made it home because of you." The younger biker continued, his voice thick with sudden emotion. "She always said the only reason that watch kept ticking after her family lost everything was because you, Mr. Wolf, spent a month on it. Wouldn't even take full payment." A murmur ran through the assembled bikers. The atmosphere in the club had transformed completely, from mockery to something approaching reverence. "Your grandmother was a woman of great patience," Nathan said simply. "How is she?" "Passed 5 years ago," the young man replied, his gaze distant. "Kept that watch until the day she died. Said it reminded her of hope." Viper, still holding Nathan's watch, turned to address his club members. His voice carried the unmistakable tone of a leader issuing orders that would not be questioned. "We're not just fixing this scooter. We're overhauling it. Whatever it needs, whatever it takes." What happened next would later be described by a passing delivery driver as the strangest, yet most efficient, pit crew they'd ever seen. The Highway Spectres, notorious for their rough reputation, transformed into a focused team of precision mechanics. They didn't just repair the seized bearing, they rebuilt the entire scooter. Someone produced a pressure washer from the club's maintenance bay, blasting decades of grime from the frame. Two members with automotive experience disassembled and repacked the wheel bearings with fresh grease. Another group tackled the braking system, replacing cables and adjusting the tension to perfection. Most surprisingly, several bikers actually left the club, returning an hour later with brand-new heavy-duty tires that they'd purchased from a specialty scooter shop across town. "These are puncture-resistant," explained a heavily tattooed woman as she skillfully mounted them on the rims. "Better for these roads." Throughout the process, Nathan stood quietly, accepting their help with the dignity of a man who understood that this was not charity. It was something deeper, something that connected the meticulous patience he'd known in his workshop with the unexpected dedication he'd encountered here. As the rebuilt scooter neared completion, Viper disappeared into his office at the back of the club. He returned carrying something folded carefully in his hand, a leather patch, brand new, similar to those worn by club members, but distinct in its simplicity. The club fell silent again as Viper approached Nathan. "We can't make you a highway specter," he explained, his voice gruff but respectful. "That takes a different kind of ride. But we can honor yours." He unfolded the patch, revealing the club's ghostly skull emblem embroidered on the back, but with one crucial difference. Above the skull was a single word in bold, metallic threading: precision. Without further ceremony, Viper carefully affixed the patch to Nathan's worn jacket, just over his heart. It fit perfectly, as if it had been measured and crafted specifically for him. "Thank you for your life's work, Master Wolf," Viper said, extending his hand. Nathan took it, his own trembling slightly, but his grip still surprisingly firm. Nathan Wolf didn't cry when they presented him with the patch. Men of his generation and background rarely displayed such emotion openly. But those who watched closely noticed how his weathered hand trembled more from feeling than age, as he ran his fingers over the embroidered word, precision. "The scooter's ready," announced one of the impromptu mechanics, wheeling the transformed vehicle forward. What had arrived as a battered, failing scooter now gleamed with renewed purpose. The frame shone where rust had been removed and touch-up paint applied. New cables, grips, and the puncture-resistant tires gave it a rejuvenated appearance that matched its now smooth and silent operation. "We added this, too," said the young biker who had spoken about his grandmother, pointing to a small, beautifully engraved brass plate they'd mounted on the front. It read, "To Nathan Wolf, Keeper of Time." Nathan nodded his appreciation, words momentarily beyond him. As he prepared to leave, his pharmacy items repacked securely in the basket, Viper made one final announcement to the assembled club. "Who's escorting the master home?" Every hand in the club went up. Minutes later, Nathan Wolf rode his renewed scooter down Main Street in a procession that caused traffic to stop and pedestrians to stare in wonder. Behind him roared 24 motorcycles, their riders maintaining a respectful distance but making their presence known. The Highway Specters, the city's most notorious members, had transformed into an honor guard. When they reached Nathan's modest apartment complex, the bikers formed a line on either side of the walkway. As Nathan rode his scooter between them, each biker nodded in silent respect. "You need anything at all, you come to us," Viper told him before departing. "And that scooter ever gives you trouble again, you bring it straight to the Bone Club." The next day, as Nathan made his usual journey to his workshop, he noticed something different at the club. A small crew was installing a brass plaque beside the entrance. By the time he returned, the plaque was in place, its message clear for all who entered. Here, time is honored, and respect is earned, tick by tick. That plaque became just the first visible sign of a deeper change. The Highway Specters remained as fierce and independent as ever, but something fundamental had shifted in their relationship with the community, particularly its quiet, often overlooked, elders. A new tradition emerged, one that residents would soon come to recognize. Whenever Nathan Wolf rode his scooter past the Bone Club, the transformation was immediate and compelling. Conversations halted, engines cut, helmets came off, and every biker, from prospects to the president himself, stood at attention until the elderly watchmaker was out of sight. They never discussed this ritual. They simply performed it, understanding that some honors require no explanation. Nathan continued riding his scooter through town, his back a little straighter beneath a jacket that now bore a patch proclaiming a single powerful truth: precision transcends judgment, decades, and circumstances. When one craftsman recognizes another,